Hey kiddos. All right. Today for our lesson, we are going to do lesson 12.3. You're going to need pages 641 and 643 torn out of your books. I'm going to show you what that looks like, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, again, for your pages, you should pull out 641, looks like this, and page 643. We're going to be comparing decimals. So as we get back into looking at decimals, I've got my place value chart. Okay, and I wanted to go over again those place values because it's very important as we're going to be comparing them. Okay, you've got your tenths. And remember, tenths are worth more than hundredths. Okay, think of tenths as your place value stick that represents 10 or even 10 cents, a dime, and your hundredths, think of those as pennies. Okay, because if they were going to ask you what is larger, 1/10 or 1/100th, you might hear 100 and think, oh yeah, 1/100th is worth more. But you've got to think of that as terms of pennies and dimes, if that helps you. Think of your place value blocks. Okay, if you're thinking about money, would you rather have 1 penny or 1 dime? Okay, because that's the difference between hundredths and tenths. In this case, if you were comparing 1/10 to 1/100th, your smaller number is going to eat your larger number. Okay, when we talk about comparing, okay, we're talking about using those signs. Your greater than, okay, your less than, and your equal to. Remember my trick? Your less than makes an L if you turn it. Okay, less than. Your greater than is going to be greater on the left side. Okay, or you can remember it as the smaller number is always going to eat the larger number. So let's take a look. Here's our guided practice, the ones that we're just going to go over together to practice. And if you take a look at number 2, we'll look at number 2 first. Okay, you've got 7/10, or you could say 70 hundredths compared to 57 hundredths. Okay, well, just look at the numbers after the zeros. Which one's larger? Definitely your 7/10 or your 70 hundredths. So your smaller number is going to eat your larger number. Okay, over here, you've got 41 hundredths compared to 14 hundredths. Here's your smaller number. It's going to eat your larger number. Okay, think of this as terms of money. Would you rather have 41 cents or 14? Probably 41. It's your better chance of getting something from a vending machine. Okay, here we've got whole numbers. 6 and 28 hundredths compared to 7 and 31 hundredths. 6 and 28 hundredths is your smaller number. It's going to eat your bigger number. Okay, here's where it kind of gets tricky. Here's what you got to remember. That 0 tacked onto the end, I could add another 5. It doesn't change the number that is there. We've got 1 and 1/10. 1 and 1/10. Okay, these values are equal. Okay, I could very easily add a 0 to the end of number 5 to make them identical. All right, so know that is equal. Those are the same. Okay, looking down at the bottom, I'm going to fold my paper so it's a little easier for you guys to see. scoot it up. Okay, here's the example we were talking about on the place value chart. I've got 1/100th, okay, because realize it's in the second place value from the decimal, compared to 1/10. This one's farther away from the decimal. It represents 1/10, 1 penny. Whereas this is representing your tenth, your 10 cents, your dime. Okay, that is much smaller. It's going to eat your 1/10. Okay, you'll carry along as you continue. I'm going to stop and go over some of these that I think are a little more confusing. 9, again. Okay, only difference here is that 0 tacked on to the end. Can we easily add a 0 to the end of our 1/10 over here? Absolutely. And in that case, it is equal. 1/10 compared to 1/10. Okay, here they put it in money. Which is more? $2.98 or $2.56? This is the higher value. This is the more money. Your smaller amount is always going to eat your larger amount. Saying 2 98/100 is greater than 2 56/100. Okay, here. Now the only difference is the 0, right? But you can't squeeze in a 0 in between the decimal and the 1. What is represented here is 7 1/100th. Here we've got 7 10/100ths, or 1/10. So this is the smaller value. It's going to eat the larger value. Okay, if this isn't making sense to you, make sure you get on with me and we can kind of go over it. Okay, we can look at the place value chart that I have. Okay, number 15 through 20. You're going to have some of these on your homework assignment. You get to make your own decimal. Okay, but you've got to make the comparison true. So if a number here is going to eat 23/100ths, are we looking for a number that is larger than 23/100ths or smaller than 23/100ths? Okay, remember the smaller number always eats the bigger number. So we're looking for something that is smaller than this 23/100ths. So think of a number that's smaller than 23. Well, that's easy, 17. Or it could be 2 or 7. Okay, but make sure if you're choosing just a single digit like that, you can't write 0.7. That's 7/10. You would have to make sure you wrote it as 7/100. So that would be a 0, 7. Okay? You have lots of possibilities for answers there. Okay, here we're looking for a decimal that would equal 8 6/100. Now tell me, do we have to put that 0 there? No, we don't. So we could make a decimal without the 0. Those two decimals are equivalent. They're equal. Okay. Here we've got blank, and that can be whatever you make it, is greater than 4 42/100. So if this is the smaller number, it's eating the larger number. We need to come up with a number that is larger than 4 42/100. You could really go crazy. You could write 100, okay, but I want it to be a decimal. Okay, you could go ahead and you could write 11 53/100. Is 11 53/100 larger than 4 42/100? Yes, and you could probably come up with many, many more. Okay, so now to take a look at your assignment. Okay, we are going to go ahead and I would like to assign for homework and practice 12.3 for comparing decimals. I'd like to assign the whole front page, 1 through 20. Yes, I'm going to go around and circle all of those. Okay, doing the same thing. Comparing here. Okay, using your signs, greater than, less than, or equal to. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Down at the bottom, okay, you're writing your own decimal to make the comparison true. So up here, you're using your signs to fill in the boxes. Down here, you're writing a decimal to make the comparison true. All right, let's flip it over and take a look at the back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we will go over a few of these together on the back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and we'll look at 21 and we'll look at 23. So 21, Maria told Patrick that her quarter weighs less than what a nickel weighs because 2/10 has fewer digits than 1800ths. How can Patrick show Maria that 2/10 is greater than 1800ths? Okay, prime example, when we were comparing over on the other side, okay, and when we had an example that looked like this, 1/10 compared to 10/100ths, what are we able to do to this decimal over here? Remember what I said about adding a 0? How that doesn't change the value, but it definitely changes the way you look at it. Okay, because before and after adding that 0, these two values are equal. So if we had 2/10 compared to 1800ths, what could we add after our 2 to help Maria understand that 2/10 is greater than 1800ths? Could we add a 0? Okay, we're not changing the value, we're just changing the way we represent that decimal. Okay, 20/100ths is greater than 1800ths. So that would be one way. How can Patrick show Maria that 2/10 is greater than 1800ths? Add a 0. Okay, and then vocabulary. Use a vocabulary term to make the sentence true. In 37 and 2/10, the ones place and the tenths place are separated by, here's your 37 and 2/10. This would be your ones place. This would be your tens place. Careful, it's not your tenths. After your decimal is your tenths place. So what is separated? What is it separated by? What would we call that right there? Go ahead. All right. Good luck, and let me know if you guys have any questions.